Hello, guys, gals, non-binary pals, big damn heroes, and other. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Lab. I'm your host, DJ Squared, and with me is my co-host,
Harper.
And we are continuing our discussions on tropes in speculative fiction, of which Big Damn Heroes is one, so you know.
Yes,
there's your list.
Week it was Big Dumb Object, wasn't
Yes.
it? That's what it was.
Yes, it was. Congratulations, it's only taken you, how many weeks have we been doing this? Like 5? Hey, look, there's all of your extra credit points for Lisa's class.
Yeah.
Yo.
So, what tropes do you have for us today?
Oh gosh, there are so many.
Anything outrageous?
I'm not sure, like, they're tropes, so, like, the level of outrageous is incredibly different.
I don't know, you brought up some last week that I'd never heard of. So.
I mean, yes, but like, an outrageous trope is different than, like, the level for outrageous tropes is, like, much higher than it would be for, like, regular things. I am going to start off with one of my favorites, which is I hate past me. Like, it's just when it's either in time travel or just, like, flashbacks when you're, like, thinking back to what you've done in the past and you're just like, yikes.
Me every night in bed. I hate past me.
You're about to fall asleep and you're just like, hey, remember that one thing? And you're just like,
Every single time.
Remember that stupid thing you said, like, 3 years ago?
10 years ago.
Remember that stupid thing you did in the womb?
Oh, man. No,
Yep.
That really is relatable.
That is the most relatable trope. And it's just like, yeah, you're thinking back and you're just like, wow, I was a piece of shit kid. Yikes.
No kidding.
That is...
I'm trying to think of something, but then if I say it, I'd have to relive it.
And then you'd have to relive it and you're just like, oh gosh. War flashbacks.
Yes.
Yup. Oh my gosh. I can't remember off the top of my head, like, some actual, like, I know I've read a lot of books, probably, like, the Percy Jackson series is definitely one of those ones you're just like, oh, yikes.
I haven't read that one.
Oh. Well, they're good. They're good. They're, like, middle grades children's books. Oh, friggin' Artemis Fowl. I forgot about Artemis Fowl. Artemis Fowl, if you've never read it, I'm assuming you haven't from the look on your face.
I haven't.
It's a book about this little kid. He's, like, super rich, very intelligent, or he was super rich. He's trying, like, the very first book, he's, like, trying to get his dad back, and, by, like, paying a ransom, but he doesn't have the money. So he decides the easiest way to get the money is to steal it from fairies. He's gonna steal a leprechaun's gold. Unfortunately, the leprechauns have guns.
Oh, that's a twist.
All the leprechauns have guns. So, like, your main character is a villain. He's this tiny little pile of garbage, but we all love him. Which, if tiny little pile of garbage is not a trope, it should be.
I was gonna say I want to make that my bio on Facebook. I'm a tiny little pile of garbage, but everybody loves me.
I mean, if you can make that claim, then you're doing something right.
So how does he hate past him?
Because, like, I can't remember the 4th or 5th book in the series. He goes back in time to the first book. Oh. So he has grown some since, and then he meets first book him and he's just like, wow, I was terrible. These fairies are now my friends, or at the very least I like them.
Okay. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yes. And then the entire series kind of goes off the rails and, like, I think it's book 7. I didn't finish book 7 because I just couldn't do it.
I was gonna say, any series with that many books, at
Yikes.
some point they jump the shark or go off the rails.
Yeah, the Atlantis complex. That was not a good book. I'm sorry for anyone who likes the Atlantis complex, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through with it. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so this one is called The Human Popsicle. Cryogenics.
Well, naturally.
And, of course, the first thing that came to my mind was an episode of Stargate SG-1. Because it was on for 10 seasons. They have every trope imaginable.
Somebody's gonna get frozen at least once.
More than once. I have a couple examples.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
So they have these stasis, like an alien race has these stasis pods that are cryogenics, basically. And there's one episode, and I think it's in the first season, where they wake up in this very futuristic utopian world. And they're told that they've been frozen, I don't know how long, I don't remember, like 1,000 years. And they're like, oh, you're in this utopia, everything's amazing, you should tell us about the past. Tell us what's happening in your life, in your world. And it turns out that it was all a trick, and they hadn't been frozen, and the people who pretended like they'd been frozen was just trying to get information out of them. It was an enemy who had captured them and, drugged them.
Right.
They do get frozen later.
A nice, but that was a nice subversion of the trope.
Exactly.
That's an excellent...
I think you go half the episode where you think that they have woken up in the future in a utopia, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second.
You're like, hold on. It's like, hold on a second. Something's not right here.
Then there's another episode where they go to Antarctica and find a frozen body. And when they...
Like you do, yeah.
Of course. And when she defrosts, she awakens on her own and just starts talking to them. But I don't think she spoke English, and it was some random language that was made up. And they tested an ice sample and found out that she predated mankind. But she has some virus and everyone dies except the main character, Colonel O'Neill, and he has to go to another alien race to get them to save him.
Yikes.
She's just frozen him.
Obviously, if you freeze somebody, they're just gonna stay like that forever until someone defrosts them. That's obviously how that works, right?
Well, the whole point is then when you awaken in the future, they have a cure for whatever was ailing you.
Yeah.
I tried to branch out a little bit and find a non-Stargate example. And apparently Han Solo frozen in carbonite.
Yes. That's the first thing I thought of.
Is an example.
Because it's just somebody was frozen. He's kind of stuck there.
But in this case, it was imprisonment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's slightly different
than
normal trope, which is someone trying to save themselves for the future. This is more like jail.
This is more like jail. It's and the Han Solo and carbonite is probably that idea probably came from the myth surrounding Walt Disney being frozen underneath Disney World.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know how long ago I heard this, but I was really young. I was 10 or 11, and I'm just and it's one of those rumors that goes around in every middle school, and it's just apparently Walt Disney's head is it's just his head too, they're gonna attach it to a robot body sometime in the future, but his head is frozen, and it's in a vault underneath I think it's Walt Disney World, so in the tunnels somewhere. So obviously they're going to bring Walt Disney back from the dead sometime.
For what purpose?
I don't know, because he's Walt Disney.
What more could he possibly do?
Yeah. But I still don't know where I heard that, but it's just one of those things.
So I read about a trope earlier called "The Myths Are Always True."
All the myths are true. Yeah, that one's fun.
So apparently Walt Disney's head is frozen underneath.
Yes, obviously, because all the myths are true.
Yes.
All of them. And actually, all the myths are true is one of the tropes that I really like to see played with. Mm-hmm. Because, I know there's one episode of Star Trek where the Greek gods are actually aliens. So, the crew of the Enterprise meets up with Apollo, or the guy who Apollo was based off of. And Apollo tries to, I believe, kidnap one of their crew. Not kidnap, because he's there's nothing secretive about this. He's just trying to, possess her. And she's just no. No, seriously, she just goes, no. You are interesting to study, but I have things to do on this ship. No thanks.
You said that was an episode of Star Trek?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't actually, I was looking through the list of examples for that trope, and I think most of them were fantasy that I recognized.
Yeah, that usually happens.
I was trying to find something that I'd seen or read, but I was like, I don't recognize, except Star Trek. I recognize Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I used to watch it, but I don't remember individual episodes very well.
But yeah, I like, that one's fun. Just that one's really fun to play around with. And my favorite book series ever, it's called The Queen's Thief. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And that one uses all the myths are true, because you, like, the first book, you get all of this, like, the first book is a road trip book, basically. Like, they're off to, it's called The Thief, and these characters are off to steal this, like, ancient treasure that was given by the gods, supposedly. And the main characters spend all this time between traveling telling us some of the myths of the world. And then later on, in, like, other books, the gods start talking to the main characters.
So the myths are all true?
Yes. And then the gods' messages are rather lackluster. Like, you're expecting, like, glory shall be your reward, and it's quit whining and go to bed.
Can you pick up some toilet paper?
They're in medieval Greece, so they can't,
They don't have that.
But not yet, probably. But yeah, the gods, they start talking to you, and then yikes.
And then things go wrong?
Well, I mean, like, they tell you to quit whining and go to bed, and if you don't quit whining and go to bed, then
smite you with a lightning bolt?
They don't actually really go in for the smiting much anymore.
Okay.
You know?
That's disappointment.
I mean, like, I really don't like, I mean, I love the main character. I love him with all my heart and soul. I would take a bullet for him if required.
That's intense.
I would march into hell and bitch slap the devil if he asked me to.
That's too intense for me. It is a fictional character.
Yes. But I love him.
And you're blushing.
I don't actually love him like that, though.
Okay.
Because, one, his wife would kill me. Also, they are the OTP. But
I don't know what that means.
the one true pairing.
Okay.
Yes.
I think outside the perimeter when I hear that. So, 'cause
Nice.
I live OTP.
Nice. But, no. I love his love for his wife too much.
Okay.
So.
That is always something to love. Other love. That sounds like
Yes,
a joke,
exactly,
but
exactly.
it's something to love.
Very good. Alright.
So, The Good Place is an NBC sitcom, and I did not think of it as speculative fiction, but I suppose it's supernatural in a way. It's about heaven and hell and demons and angel-like characters. Though the god in that world is named Sean, which makes me laugh. And I wonder if it's spelled with S-H-A-W-N or S-E-A-N. But either way, it makes me laugh that the all-knowing being is named Sean. But the trope that I'm going to be talking about is called Intrigued by Humanity.
Ooh.
Yes, and it's when an alien or a non-human being is so intrigued by humanity that they want to become a part of it and learn everything they can about humanity. And in The Good Place, Michael is the leader of The Good Place. Like, I think he's called the architect, so he has built this place for these few people from Earth who have died and have gone to the Good Place. And he was never human. He's always been a supernatural being. And he is obsessed with humanity. And so he has all these little knickknacks in his office. He has wax lips and a cheese grater. And in one episode, he's talking about how he was trying so hard to understand friendship that he watched all 10 seasons of Friends.
Nice.
So you would think that he could make relatable Friends jokes, but he doesn't. It makes it even more funny. He's sitting there like, yes, we'll be friends like Ross and Phoebe. The two that are never really particularly close on the show. It's like the most awkward pairing you could come up with from Friends. And he's like, waiting for the moment where he can say things like, take it sleazy, and eat saltine crackers. Like, he's just obsessed with the idea of being human. And it's pretty funny. I couldn't find many other examples of it, because it said it didn't count if it was just like a fling between a human and an alien. Like, that wasn't the same type of interest in humanity.
Yeah, it's not like it needs to be a fascination with humanity as like a species.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of...
I mean, most of the, like, I hear that trope and I immediately think all the humans are weird stories that are, online, and it's just, I haven't really seen much of it in mainstream media, actually. Like, not that I can think of anyway. Because it's just, I don't know, it feels like a really, really modern trope.
Yeah,
like
probably.
Like, super new.
Yeah, I was looking for science fiction, because you would really think that there would be a lot where an alien comes and is just like, what is this? Why do they have these pointy things sticking out of their faces? Why are they so weird looking? Why do they stick out their hand to shake it? Like, what,
Yeah, and that's a real big thing now in modern science fiction, but you'd probably find most of it, like, in the past in, like, fantasy. Mm-hmm. Fantasy or anything sort of fantastical, because, like, I know that, like, most Golden Age science fiction was all about the human perspective and humans killing aliens and stuff, so that's not really going to be much, there's not going to be much, if any, alien perspectives there. New Wave was mostly humans in general, not very many aliens. Although there is some speculation on what it means to be human. But that's humans with a fascination with humanity, not...
Right, which doesn't count for
that
this.
doesn't count,
yeah.
no. But, like, in fantasy, you would have, like, dragons who are really interested in these tiny little squishy beings that have all the gold. Or fairies who live like, forever. Yeah.
Is it, I think it's
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Where the fairies are so intrigued by the humans and their love and their arguments, and starts setting them up with the wrong people.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an example, and that's from far in the past.
Very far. But no, like, that's generally where the stories come from. It's mostly fairies. Because fairies, they, kidnap humans, and they replace humans, and then they sort of, occasionally they'll be helpful. Looking at the elves and the shoemaker right there. But, yeah, so we're seeing a rise of that in science fiction, and maybe, like, less of it in fantasy, I want to say. Just because, like, in fantasy, all of these races have already been so developed and, like, so integrated with humanity that there isn't really much by the way of fascination, at least from their standpoint, because humans have been around from their standpoint for, a long time. They've been living in a human world. So I feel like it's going to be interesting to see if that swings back to sort of a mutual fascination between species.
I haven't read a lot of fantasy, so I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything I've read that would fit that. But the dragons, that's a good point. That I can see. And the fairies in Shakespeare. But I really, on the tip of your tongue sometimes, and you really think that there's something there. And I think there is for science fiction that I just cannot remember right now.
Yep. If you would like a book, like sort of fantasy fairy tale recommendation, it's short. It's like super small. I believe it's middle grades, either middle grades or YA. Doesn't mean that it's not good, because it is.
Right.
It's called The Two Princesses of Bamar. It's by, I believe, Gail Carson Levine, and in it has the example I was talking about, the dragon.
Okay.
The main character eventually has to, like, go get some information from a dragon. Like, she has to find a way to get this dragon to give her this information. And the dragon, like, holds her captive. But not to, like, eat her. She wants entertainment. She wants this human to draw for her and tell her stories and keep her company.
It's like a pet.
Exactly. Granted, there are shades of imprisonment because, like, main character can't leave the cave. Eventually, like, they have a system set up where the dragon gives the main character part of her hoard when she pleases the dragon. So she gets, like, her own miniature hoard inside the dragon's hoard. But when her miniature hoard runs out, that's when she gets eaten.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. No. But just the thing is that, and this dragon's been doing this for, like, her entire life, basically. So she would have plenty of different humans in her cave. And even one of their legendary heroes, another one of the all the myths are true thing, there's embedded poetry in the beginnings of each chapter in the book. And it's of this epic poem called Drawlt. And you find out that the dragon Yoon had actually had Drawlt in her cave. So, like, this epic fairy tale, legend has actually existed in their world.
So it's got 2 of the tropes. Probably more.
Probably more. If we keep going, I might come back to it. Also a very good book. The poem at the end makes me cry.
In a good way? In a bad way? You said she was eaten, so I'm thinking maybe in a bad way.
No. It's a middle grades book. Our main character Our main character is not eaten.
Is there, like, a world inside of...
No, she's not eaten at all.
Okay.
Promise.
Okay.
There is no main character eating. Or death. Well, we'll get to that. I don't want to ruin the entire book.
Right.
It's like, speaking of these fantasy books, my next trope is Magic A is Magic A.
I don't know that one.
And that's basically, you have to keep internal consistency in your magic system. Like, your magic system could completely fuck with all the laws of thermodynamics or whatever, but as long as it is internally consistent, then your willing suspension of disbelief is, like, fine. It's like, alright, magic, like, but you can't do things like, alright, so this one super powerful magical item can only shoot off one spell in an hour, and you have to hold to that. Because if you don't, then the audience is just like, no.
Right.
You said that...
People go to Twitter angrily.
It's like, you said! You said this, like, super magical staff of super awesomeness could only shoot one spell in an hour. But then the main character shoots it twice in an hour. You can't do that. So, yeah.
Is Harry Potter consistent?
Mm.
Oh, what does that look? I've never read Harry Potter.
It's just kinda... I would say... That one's hard because, like, the magic system isn't really... It's super vague, is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is incredibly vague. Like, you don't actually know where the limits of this magic system are. Like, you know the lawful limits. Like, there are the three magical spells that you cannot do because they're illegal. But other than that, there's no real boundaries. There is what we see, the only real boundary seems to be the ones you place on yourself. Like, either legality or how hard you're willing to work, or, your level of imagination, because I'm sure there's some things that they don't have spells for just because no one's ever figured out how to do it. Or thought that they could do it. But yeah, like, they're not... there is a Harry Potter on the tropes page, but it's just like... okay. So, apparently one of the... yeah, and also the that trope is sort of sidestepped because Harry isn't a very good student. So he doesn't really care that much about, like, learning all the magic he can, which is personally, I think, a little bit ridiculous.
I don't know, I really have never read a Harry Potter book. Which, every time I say that, people clutch their pearls. I have seen most of the movies, but out of order and spread out over years.
Yeah.
And so, anytime Harry Potter comes up, because, man, do professors love to use that as some sort of, I can relate to you thing.
Yeah.
Last semester, I had one, and he would bring it up, like, every class, and he'd be like, that Hermione! And I'm sitting there like, I can't relate, you've lost me.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's almost a cultural, enough of a cultural touchstone that lots of people know it, if only through osmosis, like, just sort of social osmosis.
Like me.
You picked it up. Like, that, no, that's me with Star Wars. Never seen a single movie.
What?
Nope.
See, those I've seen, not all of them, but most. But I also couldn't talk about them if we needed to. Like, I just seemingly don't retain any information.
Apparently. But yeah. One really good example of magic systems that are actually very well self-contained is Brandon Sanderson. He is an author that specializes in unique magic systems, and they are incredible. They're, like, super internally consistent, and they're just really cool. Like, there's this one in his Mistborn trilogy. The magic power is called allomancy, and it's metal alloys. You ingest them, and then you can use them for various things. Pewter gives you physical strength. There's a special metal alloy that allows you to see, like, 5 seconds into the future. Very good when you're fighting someone.
Yeah.
And
they're about to stab me in the kidney.
And then there's you know, other ones, and, like, it's super interesting because, like, you can only use either the metal that you can use, because there's some allomancers that can only use one metal, and if you're a Mistborn, which means you can use all of them, then you can only use them for as long as they're in your system, as long as you have them ingested. So, like, that's an interesting sort of timing mechanism, too. Like, you're burning it, but you can only burn it if you have it. So.
So you said ingested, it's in, like, pill form?
Pill form, it's in, like, the water, because, you know,
Okay.
this is, like, sometimes just straight up swallow metal shavings. Just go with it. Listen.
Don't do that at home, folks.
Please don't do that, actually. Only if it does give you magic powers, but would not suggest in real life.
Well, you can't find out till you try.
Please don't try.
Oh, yes, please don't.
Please don't.
These aren't Tide Pods.
Oh gosh. All right. But Mistborn, very interesting metal-based magic system, and it's all internally consistent. Even the versions of the metal-based magic system that are not allomancy, but, like, all of the magic in this world is metal-based. So there's a different type of people who they get their metallic powers by like, they have, like, wristbands and stuff of the various metals, and they store their own, like, for pewter, which is strength, they store their own strength inside the pewter, let it build up over time, and then they can call it back into themselves whenever they need it. So, like, yes, you you have, like, a few hours of weakness for a few minutes of super strength, but also you don't get, like, lead poisoning.
Yeah.
You don't get, like, poisoning from ingesting all these metals.
I don't know. I was like, why would that be useful? But I guess if it's super strength, then it is useful.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking it's just like normal, regular strength, and you just store it in the pewter for no good reason. Like,
I mean, like, it is your normal strength, but you can, like, choose how much you tap into at a time. So you could have, like, one super berserker lunge and, like, destroy a castle wall or something.
So it's like a bunch of adrenaline.
Yeah, exactly. But it is actual physical strength, and it's just such an interesting world. Like, Brandon Sanderson really does a lot of things like that. There's a different story of his that I believe they're like at least one of the magics they use in that book is the person's entire ability is to designate which direction down is. And you wouldn't think that would be very useful, except for he can designate down as like the ceiling, and then suddenly all of the like guards in the hallway are smacked into the ceiling. And he can just walk on by under them.
That sounds pretty awesome to me.
I'm going to designate down as, like, my hand. So your weapon is now in my hand.
Oh. Well, wouldn't they all also come flying towards his hand, if that's
I mean,
where down
like,
is?
it's like, I'm pretty sure that you can make it more specific.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm going to designate down for myself, for just myself, as the ceiling.
Okay.
Walk around on the ceiling. All the guards aren't looking up, so...
That actually sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So all of the worlds are metal-based magic, but they're not related?
That's for Mistborn.
Okay.
Mistborn's metal-based magic. He has other books with different magic systems.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, the Mistborn trilogy is all metal-based magic. And it's just really cool.
Okay.
It's just super neat.
I thought you were saying every series he'd written
is not metal-based. No. Because he has a different one about superheroes that I still haven't read. Yikes, sorry. And that one's about, like, how the more powerful you are, the more likely you are to be evil. You know, absolute power corrupts absolutely and all that.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. I just haven't been able to read it yet. I'm sorry, Brandon Sanderson.
For any particular reason?
He writes such long books.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good reason.
That night, I have other things I need to read.
All right.
I have all these things I need to read.
And homework.
And homework.
School. Social life.
Whatever. I don't have a social life. What are you talking about?
I know. Me too.
And we've talked about that trope for a very long time, so let's move on.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the I'm melting trope. Yep. I was sitting here like, should I do it? Should I not do it?
If you have a voice, you have to do it.
Oh, I don't have a voice anymore. No. So I found an example from X-Files.
We're changing it up here, guys.
I know. From Stargate to X-Files, look at me. So diverse.
You.
So, in X-Files, they have these clones, and when they are killed by someone called the Bounty Hunter, they turn into this bubbling green goo. They are trying to colonize Earth, and the original... I guess it's not a colony if it's the original, but the homeland of these clones, which are alien, want to kill them all off so that they cannot colonize Earth because it's like corrupting their race or something. So anyways, they send a bounty hunter to go make all of these clones into green bubbling goo and melt them all down. But also all the alien hybrids in the show, which I guess Scully counts as an alien hybrid after she's been abducted. Don't quote me on that. But I think that she counts... Have you ever seen the show?
No, actually.
What?
I mean, like, another one of those things that I know about mostly through osmosis.
I love that show. It's so good.
Like, there are so many people that I, like, talk to in real life and, like, follow on the internet that love X-Files, so, like, I get a lot of it.
It's got everything. It's got sci-fi. It's got elements of fantasy. It's just... Every episode is... I don't know. Like, there's a lot of standalone, really good episodes, and there's the overarching plot lines that are really intense. I just love it. But, anyway, Scully, which is one of the main FBI characters, gets abducted by aliens at some point. Sorry for the spoiler.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's been out forever.
It's been, like, listen, they just rebooted it.
That's true. I haven't seen the most recent season, though. But once you become an alien hybrid, you can be melted.
Yikes.
I don't even really know what the weapon is that they use to kill these alien hybrids and clones, but it makes you into green goo, so not a fun one.
Not a fun one. I have an example for that trope, and it's, have you ever seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I have.
Yeah, remember the dip?
I don't.
So, dip is like the acid stuff that like turns all of the toons into like puddles.
I don't remember that.
That's like a major plot point in the movie.
I told you I have no memory.
Oh my God.
I watch things and I forget everything other than the name.
So obviously you need to rewatch Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I should.
It's such, like, although I have to admit, like, I was really young when I watched that, and Judge Doom gave me nightmares. Him and his toon eyes.
Wasn't really allowed to watch it.
Nice!
Because of the voluptuous body of Jessica.
Listen.
But I watched it anyways, and I don't remember too much of it. But most of the examples for this trope were cartoons.
Yeah. Because it's easier to do in cartoon.
Yeah. Whether it's like bubbles or goo or, you know, there were so many examples, but it was mostly older cartoons that I hadn't seen. I don't know that it's as common now.
If you would count, I think Steven Universe does something like this when the aliens, I don't want to say they die, they bubble. They get bubbled.
Yeah.
So, like,
that did count.
I think it's their gemstones. Like, their gemstones are still whole, but they themselves aren't really there, or something like that. I'm not entirely sure how to describe that, but yeah, I know that they get bubbled. So,
sorry, I'm still thinking about Who Framed Roger
Rabbit. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it. Look for the green goo, the melting.
Yep. It's called Dip, and it's just very unfortunate for any toons. There's this poor little squeaky shoe. Like, it's a toon shoe, and it just squeaks. And it got put into the dip, and it was very sad. Oh. This poor little shoe didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve any of it.
Was it a light-up shoe?
No.
Oh.
It was just like a...
Those are the best.
Cartoon stats. Oh my gosh. And then, another trope is my significance sense is tingling.
Oh.
It's like, you know, like spider sense, force sense. It's just like, there's an in-universe, like, sixth sense that's around that's very, very ill-defined. And it's just like, I can feel something wrong with this. Or I can feel a disturbance in the universe or whatever.
I have a joke example for this.
Go for it.
Mean Girls. There's a 60% chance it's already raining. Do you remember that? Have you seen the movie?
Yes.
Amanda
It's been a while,
Seyfried?
but yeah.
Is that how you say her
Yeah.
name? Anyway, she thinks that she can tell when it's going to rain, like through some special sense, but really she can tell it's going to rain because it's already raining.
Yeah.
That's my joke example.
I actually kind of want to see if that one's on the, no, it is not on the trope page, but it would be hilarious if it was.
Just because it's probably not considered speculative fiction.
It's, shh, listen, shh. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's just like, Captain Planet in the Planeteers is on this page.
I don't know that one.
That's a very old TV show. And I've never actually seen it, but I know enough about it to make fun of it. So it's one of those typical, like, aimed at children environmental TV shows, you know? It's like the archetype of that type of show.
Smokey the Bear kind of thing.
Sort of. It's like these 5 kids, like, have magic rings, and they can summon a superhero to defeat corporations.
Oh.
to defeat the evil CEOs of the corporation that's, like, polluting the local lake.
Nice.
Or, you know, deforesting the rainforest or something.
Gotta convince those children.
Yup. Yup.
When, do you know when that came out? At least a general decade? No?
I want to say it was the 90s.
Okay.
It's like early 90s, I guess.
It's funny to me that you called that super, super old.
Because, it was done. It was done and over long before I started watching TV. It was I don't even know how long it ran.
It's gonna be funny if you look it up and it's 1999.
Oh, no, it's no. Apparently it was released on DVD in 2011.
Nice.
But no, it was 1990 to 1996. So yeah, before I was even born.
I was alive.
So.
But wasn't really TV watching age.
No. I was. I was at TV watching age too. But that's just me, personally.
We watched James and the Giant Peach, and that was the only thing we ever watched. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I do like the movie, actually.
Yeah.
I liked that movie.
I think we watched it every day for 2 or 3 years.
Nice.
So I have not seen it since childhood because I cannot bear to watch it again.
Nice. That's me with Finding Nemo.
Really?
Cannot watch it again.
I like that movie.
It's a fine, the movie's fine. But, it's one of those movies that you watch on literally every school trip, every, church trip, every sort of, sleepaway camp or everything.
I might be too old to have experienced it that way, though.
But, anytime a bus had, anytime you were on a bus with a bunch of students and the bus had a DVD player, they were gonna play Finding Nemo at least once, and I'm sitting here can we not?
When I went to the dentist a couple weeks ago, that's what they had on all the TVs in the ceiling, so I got to lay there and watch Finding Nemo.
My orthodontist used to have either that playing or, ocean animal documentaries, but that was fine because that was also thematic. His entire waiting room was sort of, fish-themed, ocean themed.
Yeah.
So I'm just all right, I'll give this a pass, it's thematic, but,
Yeah, so Finding Nemo came out in 2003.
Yeah.
So I was about to going into middle school, but I was homeschooled, so that's probably why I did not have the same experience as you.
No. Public schooled, and it also came out when I was 5. So, I had, the entirety of my school career.
Yeah, no kidding.
To watch that movie.
For me, it was SpongeBob. That's what SpongeBob was for me. And then when I went to UGA,
well, same, but
I took a class on SpongeBob. I'm not even kidding. It was marine biology and SpongeBob and how accurate SpongeBob was because it was written by marine biologists.
Yeah.
I did not make a good grade in that class, though. I thought it would be a lot of watching SpongeBob, and instead it was a lot of marine biology.
Nice. Nice. I mean, I had a butt ton of SpongeBob in my life growing up, too.
Well, it ran forever, and
it's
still show
going.
it. Yeah.
No, they're still making new episodes.
They are?
Yeah.
Because it came out in, 99?
Something like that. It's still going. I'm pretty sure.
May 1st, 1999. Yeah.
Yep. And it still goes. And I'm sitting here let the sponge die.
Apparently.
Let it die.
SpongeBob has a birthday. The character SpongeBob was born July 14th, 1986. I don't know what to do with this information. Well, I'm sitting here, I Google SpongeBob, trying to find the date it came out, and there are 2 dates listed, and one says 86 and one says 99, and I'm like, what is going on? But apparently the sponge has a birthday.
And apparently he was 13 years old when the show started.
But had his own house and a pet snail.
Lived on his own. Well, the ages of, sea sponges are probably a bit different.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh gosh, we've gotten
I know.
far afield.
Moving away from SpongeBob.
We're going to move up back to FMA. Because one of the tropes that I found was equivalent exchange. And for this one, I'm going to quote verbatim the opening. There's a phrase that is said by our main character's younger brother, Alphonse, at the beginning of every single episode. And And that's like, sentence is, humankind cannot gain anything without first giving something in return. To obtain something of equal value must be lost. That is alchemy's first law of equivalent exchange. In those days, we really believed that to be the world's one and only truth. And
I believe it.
And that sets the tone for the entire series.
I believe it, though.
So, yeah. And the basics of the trope is that to gain something, you've got to lose something else.
So the
power has
whole
consistency.
Movie show, I can't remember. Show is based off of this trope, essentially.
Yeah, basically. I mean, we don't really understand how some of the equivalent exchange works, but
because you've mentioned this, like, someone died and someone lost a leg, something like that.
It's like the main character and his little brother, Edward and Alphonse, they tried to bring their mother back from the dead.
Okay.
They failed. But the act of trying opened up this gate. And within the gate is like all of the knowledge of just the universe. And the price for opening the gate, which is what their transmutation actually did, is open the gate. The price for it was Alphonse's entire body and Edward's leg.
Right, and they put the brain and soul of...
No, after Edward got back from viewing the gate, he saw his little brother was gone. So using the knowledge from the gate, he sacrificed his arm to bind his little brother's soul to a suit of armor.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
So we don't exactly know how that works. Like, why this one kid's arm is equivalent to his little brother's soul.
Right.
There's some things in there
belittling.
There's some things in there that we're not seeing. But you should also take into account that little brother did not remember the gate, which is part of the deal when you do human transmutation. You open the gate, you see the truth. Little brother did not remember the gate, so little brother didn't have the abilities that his older brother did when he came back. So it was just his soul.
It wasn't that he was a little pile of garbage, so he was only worth an arm.
No. Alphonse Elric is a sweet summer child who has never done anything wrong in his entire life.
A short life.
His very short life. They tried to bring their mom back, and Alphonse was like 9.
Oh.
He was like 9 years old. He was like 9 or 10.
It's a tearjerker.
Oh gosh, the first few episodes of that. Oh gosh. Also, I'm gonna show you real quick Trisha Zombie, because that is a thing that needs to be witnessed. Like, I can't explain Trisha Zombie.
From FMA?
Yeah, because their mom's name is Trisha.
Oh.
They brought back a thing.
No, not what they wanted.
Because it's just like the transmutation, like all of the energy from the transmutation also had to do something. Yeah, look at her.
Ooh.
Scary. All of her malformed glory. They tried to bring their mom back. They didn't. You can't bring the dead back. That is also a major theme of the show.
Life in general.
Don't bring the dead back to life.
Doesn't work.
Don't try. Please.
If you're gonna do it, at least become a human popsicle.
Oh gosh.
To be awoken later.
I wonder if Alphonse being in a suit of armor would count as a partial popsicling.
Maybe.
Because, like, he can't eat. He can't sleep. He can't really feel
or age.
Anything. He doesn't age. Doesn't really feel. Like, figuring out how to hold things without breaking them was probably a really, really big challenge for him. Also, the fact that he effectively grew to 4 times his height. Because that suit of armor was like 7 feet tall.
I would say it does count, because when I was reading about the trope, there were 3 different ways you could, like, fulfill the trope. Mm-hmm. And one of them was being on a spaceship that's going slower than light, I think is what it said. Mm-hmm. And so it effectively freezes you, and you're just stuck on this spaceship, but not really aging, but time is passing. And so I think that's kind of similar.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Alphonse can still interact with the world. He can still see, and he can still talk, and he can still hear. And he can still do his alchemy. But yeah, like, his major thing throughout the entire series is that, one, like I said, can't eat, can't sleep, can't do any of that. Two, he goes through a sort of crisis of, like, personhood. 'Cause he's not, like, he meets up with these other people who are also souls shoved into suits of armor. And one of them just sort of makes him worry that he isn't actually real. That he was just memories shoved inside a suit of armor by Ed so that Ed wouldn't be alone. And he's wondering if Alphonse the human was ever really actually a person. Because he doesn't have a body because the gate took it. So, like, how do you...
Very complex.
Yes. And then there's when his memories, or, like, his connection to the armor starts degrading. So his soul gets pulled back to the gate occasionally.
And the other one loses another arm.
No. There's only so many arms a person has.
2.
But, well, you know, he's got an automail arm, so, like, if the gate accepted automail...
True.
You just keep giving... Would the Gate of Truth accept my robot body as a payment?
Oh, wait, so he's a cyborg, right?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, because being a cyborg means that the human parts and the mechanical parts are inextricable from one another. You have to have both to survive. Like, if you can live without the mechanical parts, then you're not a cyborg. So, he's only missing an arm and a leg. Like, he could live without those limbs. It's just not very easy. So, no, he is not technically a cyborg.
Okay.
He is an amputee. So.
Okay, so the Bermuda Triangle is a trope.
The real life trope.
Yes, I know. I was like, oh, I need to find more examples, and I just Googled the Bermuda Triangle, and of course it's all real life kind of conspiracy theory stuff, and I was like...
Which, that's the best stuff.
It is.
That's the best.
It's way better than TV could ever do.
Like, I want to say to all of you conspiracy theory nuts out there, like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, you make my life much more interesting. Except if you're talking about children being paid to pretend that their school was shot up.
Yeah,
that is not okay.
That's not funny.
No.
Topical! I know.
But yeah, no, like, all you conspiracy theorists who are like, the moon is fake, or...
Made of cheese.
Or, you know, we're actually living on the moon right now and are programmed to think we're on Earth. That's fascinating. Keep doing what you're doing.
Or the one that was popular, I don't know, in 2016, that Hillary Clinton was some sort of lizard person.
Nah, man, the entire government is lizard people. The entire government is obviously lizard people. Like, come on.
Oh, man.
We are run by a lizard man government. It's the truth. The truth is out there.
Hey, that's X-Files. No, I want to believe.
That's I want to believe, yeah.
Okay.
I know that much about the X-Files.
So, speaking of X-Files, that's the example I have.
Excellent.
Good segue.
Yeah.
So there's an episode where Mulder, who's one of the FBI agents, gets a call that there is a ship that's appeared in the Bermuda Triangle that wasn't really there before. It's been missing since, I don't know, the 40s.
Ghost ship!
Yes.
Ghost ship!
And so he immediately, like, ditches everything he's supposed to be doing and goes to find this ship. And he boards the ship, and it immediately transports him into the past to 1939, right at the outbreak of World War II. And German soldiers are, like, boarding the ship because Thor's hammer is on the ship. And they're trying to get it so that they can win the war outright without it taking years upon years. And
Excellent.
They didn't win anyways, but...
Yeah.
So, this is probably the only not real-life Bermuda Triangle thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. You know, outside of the news.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen plenty of, like movies and stuff that have the Bermuda Triangle and sort of ghost ships.
Pirates of the Caribbean, didn't they have one?
I think they went through the Bermuda Triangle.
I feel like that was a theme of one of them, not the original, but one of the other ones.
I mean, there's like 3 sequels. We're just gonna go with it.
I haven't seen all of them. And won't.
But, yeah. Like, I liked those movies so much, but they have Johnny Depp in them. And I can't justify that.
At some point, we won't get to watch anything.
I know.
At this rate.
It's going to be sad, but I'm going to deal with it.
I just am learning.
I'm going to make my own content, because at that point...
Or just read conspiracy theories.
Just read conspiracy theories, it's fine. Fun for the whole family.
Maybe.
Yikes. Except for like we said, Murder on the Orient Express, because
he dies.
He dies. Very bloody in like the first 20 minutes. That is it. That is the only acceptable Johnny Depp viewing.
Yeah, you know, I keep forgetting that he was even in it. Going into it, I didn't even really realize he was in it. He's so unimportant to that movie.
Exactly. Like, congrats, you're a corpse.
Yeah.
All right. And my last trope for today, for this episode, is going to be ghost ship. Because I love ghost ship. Ghost ship is the best trope. Just either when it's like a real, like an actual ghost ship, like this ship is being pirated. Yeah. it's being captained and crewed by ghosts, and the ship itself is a ghost. Or if just the ship is a ghost, because that's interesting when it doesn't have any crew, it's just the ship itself is a ghost.
Yeah.
That's fun. Or if it's somebody faking a ghost ship, like a ship
lure
that...
people in.
A ship that, like in one of my favorite animes, it's called GaTech. Like, GaTech. And this one sort of subverts that trope. Well, it subverts, like, an actual ghost ship. Because, the ghost ship in the anime, it's a reproduction of the original ship that was sunk. Like, and it was made for a very specific purpose. The ghost ship, the Queenberry, which is the first ship, which sank to hide all of the evidence of what happened on the ship. And one of the kids who was on that ship survived, became incredibly wealthy, and then tracked down all of the people who had put her on that ship in the first place, and then lured them all onto a reproduction of the ship to kill them all off.
Nice.
Because that's what they did. They dropped like 11 kids on on the original ship. One from each different nation that was represented in World War I. Mm. And whichever ship, or whichever kids survived, like, that's how they predicted the outcome of the war. Is by whichever, like, to see who this country should ally with.
That's really weird.
That's how they predicted it. And it worked! It worked!
Which country was she?
She was... Oh gosh, I don't even remember. I feel like she was France?
Very wealthy and kills everyone off. France.
Well, like, the, like, she was one of the very few who survived. But, yeah, I don't actually remember what nation she was from. But yeah, all of, like, those kids survived, and, like, one of them, like, she was the one who became very wealthy and then lured all the people who, like, put her on that ship in the first place, plus the kid who had started all of the killing, because they had to have one kid who knew at least sort of what was going on, so he could actually start the panic and the killing and whatever. And he was Britain, I remember that. He was representing Britain. So she also lured him onto the ship with the express purpose of killing him, too. But the reason our main character got to be on the ship was she took the invite from the woman at the beginning of the episode who had been murdered was the fortune teller who had told who had said that they needed to put all these kids on a ship. And she was murdered by one of the other kids. Just straight up shot in the face. But it was enough.
This is anime?
Yes.
Okay.
Locked room murder. The very beginning of the episode was locked room murder. And the culprit was one of the kids who had been on the ship. And so that's how the main character got on the ship in the first place. Took the dead woman's invite, basically.
That's very intense.
Yes.
I was not expecting that storyline, but it's great.
And that's one episode.
Oh, I was thinking this is like spanning series.
No, this is one episode.
Even better.
It's so good. It's such a great show. It really is. It's even better because our main character is like 17 and she's this super small Lolita, like gothic Lolita looking girl. She's like a tiny blonde Sherlock Holmes. I love her.
Mass murderer.
No, she's not a mass murderer. The main character is just there to solve a mystery.
Oh, okay. I thought she was the survivor.
No,
okay.
no. She was far too young at the time.
Gotcha.
No, she was just there to solve the mystery because people were being mysteriously murdered and she was really bored.
So, like, Nancy Drew.
Except for if Nancy Drew was rude.
Okay.
Like,
so Veronica Mars.
She's rude because she's bored. Because she's been locked in a library basically her entire life.
I can understand that. I'd be rude too. So I have one last trope.
Ooh, yes, good.
Called the brain-computer interface.
Excellent.
And
upload yourself into the Matrix.
Can you guess where my example is from?
Is it Stargate?
It's Stargate. It's Stargate SG-1.
Yee!
So in Stargate, since it spanned 10 seasons, they had different time periods of different villains, basically. And towards the end, I think they kind of ran out of ideas, and they got really weird for a while.
As you do.
Yeah. So one of the villains, this was like mid-series, I think season 5, 6, maybe 7. They had replicators, which were robots. And originally, they were just little metal pieces that could like link together and make any shape whatsoever. But then later on, there were human form ones, and they could stick their hand directly into your head as a form of torture and to get information from you. And so it was a brain-to-computer interface because the robots were the computers. And
they just shoved their hands in your face.
Yep, right into your forehead. So
yikes.
Sam Carter is one of the main characters, feisty captain, then major, then colonel, as the series progresses, and one of the replicators kind of develops a soul in a way and falls in love with her, but she won't love him back, so he makes a replicator form like her. After, sticking his hand into her head and figuring out every little nuanced part of her character and personality, and then makes a robot version of her.
There's no way this could possibly go wrong.
I know. But that's actually the only example I have. And then I started Googling real life things because it put me on a tangent of like prosthetics. Because there are the ones where they're trying to get it where you can control it with your brain.
Yeah.
And so then I went off on.
I mean, like, that is really interesting, the, like, how far prosthetic science is coming.
Yeah.
Just that, like, the ones that I've read about where you can just, like, they're working on just straight up bypassing the spinal cord to get people's legs moving again.
Yeah.
And that's just super interesting. The future is now.
It is now.
The future is happening all the time. And not at all. And I think that's it for this week. So, bye guys!